All right. So again, once again, class, good afternoon. As I said, hormones have a variety of functions. They can induce sleep, induce anxiety, lessen anxiety, increase adrenaline. No, they could stimulate sexual functions. They have a variety of functions, and these functions are um, corroborated by different hormones, different sets of hormones produced also by different glands. But all in all, no, as I said a while ago, hormones are one of the most vital cogs in our system, meaning our body, our physiological, emotional, mental capacities would have less uh, capabilities if it weren't for hormones. So it's that important to our system. So for today's discussion, we will take a deeper look at how hormones function and some of the different types of hormones that can be found in the human system or in the human body. All right, so one of the first effects of hormones are, again, as I said, stimulating our sexual functions. And in stimulating sexual functions, there are developmental and activational effects, to that matter. So first, the developmental effect. So in the developmental effect of sex hormones, it influences the development of anatomical, physiological, and behavioral characteristics that differentiate the sexes. So if you notice, class, okay, if you notice, when we are born, no, gipanganak ta sa atong parents, no, during our infancy years, when we were born, di ba, the first determinant, the first thing that a doctor would say is that, okay, so your baby is a female, your baby is a male. But when you try to look at it, no, compare it, dili pa jud nimo maklaro. At first, katong yung bag-o pa ganing gawa sa womb sa atong mother class, di pa gyud klaro. However, class, as male infants and female infants start to grow, this is where the changes that occur in males and the changes that occur in females become very noticeable. All right? Yes, yes. Okay, Jade. So again, mag-notice na nimo. Nga naman, male and female developmental trajectories, meaning the growth of females and the growth of males differ. In fact, according to research, females grow more maturely at an early age compared to men or males. So mao na class, lahi ang atong developmental trajectories, lahi pud ang mo develop na parts. So for males, what happens, especially when they reach adolescence? No, broadening of the shoulders, no, deepening of the voice. For the females, sa may kasagaran mahitabo, the development of the breast, no, the kanang sa hips nga part, class, no, say tawag ana, the kanang mura nagmukuan ang imong hips, porma na siya. Okay, so the developmental trajectories differ, and these developmental trajectories are mediated by hormones, by sex hormones. So the sex hormones for males and the sex hormones for females work hard each day just to ensure that na-follow good ang sakto nga developmental trajectory depending sa imong gender. Okay? So inana ka vital. Now, the activational effects of sex hormones is that they trigger reproduction related behavior in mature individuals. So, dili lang di ay ang atong developmental trajectories ang affected sa sex hormones. Ang ato po di ang behavior, the behavior that we display. Of course, when we were younger, what do we tend to do? We play with toys, No, we play with all sorts of different kinds of kanang mga dua, no? But then as we grow up, we start to deviate from those katong mga games that we play in childhood, kanang mga patintero, kanang mga batulata, mo deviate na tana. But in adolescence, lahi na pod, no? Siguro ang atong mas malingaw na ta tan-aw ta og kanang mga Netflix nga mga documentaries, Netflix nga series, YouTube videos, sa mga K-pop fans diha, K-pop nga mga Korean drama or Korean pop nga mga videos, no, lahi-lahi na class. So the behavior that we display is also affected by the sex hormones that we possess. Okay, adolescent surges have both developmental and activational effects. So the the work of the sex hormones class intensifies during adolescence. Mao bitaw na nga adolescence is the peak of growth or peak of development because diha mo intensify ang trabaho sa sex hormones. All right? Now, one of the most uh, one of the most important systems in our body that mediates, manages, and uh, coordinates the functions of the different glands that produce the different hormones in our body class is what we call as the neuroendocrine system. Okay, the neuroendocrine system. Okay, so in the neuroendocrine system, this is where our glands are located. Katong mga mag-release of hormones. These glands are divided into two. They can be number one, exocrine glands. Kung exocrine glands, these glands contain ducts or kanang agianan class, which carry the hormones or the chemicals from the actual duct to the target organ. So ang exocrine nga gland naa na siya ducts that will carry the hormones to the different targets. Example, sweat glands. Okay? Ang endocrine glands are the ductless glands. Wala sila ducts, wala sila murag mga tubules nga giana, no? They release the hormones directly into our circulatory system. Okay? The endocrine glands can be found in organs whose primary function is uh, hormone release. Okay? And they are referred to as endocrine glands. So, mo ni sila ang mga endocrine glands. Pineal gland, okay? Hypothalamus, pituitary gland, thyroid gland, parathyroid gland, the thymus, the adrenal gland, the pancreas, the ovary, and the testis. So mga glands na sila class, mga endocrine ang ilang nature. All right, now we go to some examples. So for sa males, the testicles, which is a gland, an endocrine gland, produce sperm cells. In terms of hormones, our testes also produces uh, kaning testosterone, which is the main uh, sex hormone for males, testosterone. For females, no, ang gland diha are the ovaries, which also produce the ova. All right? Now, the ovaries, the ovarian gland, also produces a hormone which can mainly be found in females, estrogen. Okay? So again, the sperm and ova each have 23 chromosomes. So mo na ni katong mag-form na sila og one class katong 23 chromosomes each ba kung there is sexual intercourse, okay? And then fertile ang female, so possible nga na ay zygote ma-form, na ay infant ma-form. So fertilization occurs first. So sperm cell plus the ovum is equal to the zygote. So again, there are 23 pairs of chromosomes, 23 from the sperm cell, 23 from the ovum. So the X and Y are the sex chromosomes. For the female, it's the X and X. For the XY, it's male. So if inigtanaw na sa doktor, XX ang sex chromosome, female. Kung XY, male ang infant. So what are the classes of hormones? So naay mga hormones class nga gitawag og amino acid derivatives. An example is epinephrine. Now, if you remember, kinumdum pod mo katong na-discuss ang neurotransmitters, monoamines are also hormones. Again, di ba, ang monoamines, they consist of one thread of amino acid. Mo na gitawag monoamines. Okay? Peptides and proteins are also types of hormones. They are short and long chains of amino acids. Naapoy steroids, which are synthesized from cholesterol. Steroids are fat soluble, which means that they are able to enter cells and bind to receptors in the cytoplasm or the nucleus. They're also what we call as sex steroids. They are produced by the gonads class. Kanang gonads, mo na sila ang atong mga reproductive glands. Si testis o si uh, testosterone. Si testis o si ovary. Okay? So for sex steroids, example ana is androgen for males. Mo na, 'di ba, kung giingon ganiha na ay testosterone nga hormone. Unya for female si estrogen. All right? The adult testis of males releases more androgens and the ovaries releases more estrogens for females. Progestins, which is another type of hormone, and enables our reproductive organs to release progesterone, is present in both sexes. So ang progestins makita ka sa males and females. Mo na ang progesterone can be found or can be produced in both male and female. The progesterone prepares the uterus and the breast of the mother or of the female for pregnancy. The adrenal cortex also releases sex steroids. So hormones of the pituitary, di ba? Ato naman yung gitako sa una. The pituitary gland is called the master gland. Nganong gitawag man siya master gland class? Because it is in the pituitary gland where there is sufficient coordination of all hormonal activities in our system. Mo na class nga if there are deficits, if there are gitawag natog mga problems with our pituitary gland, then there is a possibility of hormonal imbalance, no? Dakog chances nga naay hormonal imbalance nga mo-occur. Okay? Diha sa atong system. Okay? So as you can see, this is a midline view of the posterior and anterior pituitary and the surrounding structures. Okay, so mo na siya diha. Okay. So cyclic versus steady gonadal hormone levels. Female hormones go through a 28-day cycle. Mo na class nga ang females na ay gitawag nga menstrual cycle. Right? So meaning both pasabot class, there is a 28-day time frame wherein the hormones of females are very active. And then after which na ay time frame nga dili siya active ang production and then mabalik na pod ang cycle. Males on the other hand, ang among hormone levels sa lalaki constant. Mo na nga wala may mga menstruation kay ngano man constant naman siya across the year class. Okay, dili siya mo differ ang sa hormonal level sa mga lalaki. Okay? So the anterior pituitary gland activity is controlled by the hypothalamus, and it is also the hypothalamus that determines whether the hormone levels will cycle or will not. So mao na class, usahay pud class, kabantay mo ana class sa mga babae, di ba? Some of you experience gitawag na to irregular nga menstruation. Okay, usahay class, that irregular menstruation is due to a certain problem with your hypothalamus. Mo na nana ipatake nga tambal ang doktor sa imuha kay usahay pwede man hypothalamic ang origins kung nganong irregular ang imong menstrual cycle. Alright? So mauna siya kay ang hypothalamus man class ang nagdetermine sa complete cycle when the cycle occurs, when the cycle stops, when the cycle circles back again and then occurs. Ana na po. So ang hypothalamus nagdetermine ana. Okay, neural controls of the pituitary gland. So in one of the researches on birds, no, or researches on birds, didto una nakita nga the control over the pituitary function was kanang mediated by the nervous system. Meaning, ang pituitary gland is of course controlled by the nervous system. Okay? So, lesion and stimulation experiments also established the fact that the hypothalamus is the regulator of the anterior pituitary gland. However, the research did not explain how the signal was mediated as the anterior pituitary is not connected to the hypothalamus by neurons. So wala pa'y connection class, wala pa'y explanation nga nung naay connection between your anterior pituitary gland and the hypothalamus. Okay? So control of the pituitary by the hypothalamus. So in the posterior pituitary gland, this is where the neural input from the hypothalamus comes in. So sa posterior pituitary, diha giproduce ang vasopressin. Okay? Vasopressin is referred to as an antidiuretic hormone. Karon mangutana mo nako, sir, unsa may pasabot anang antidiuretic hormone? Okay? Pasabot anang antidiuretic hormone class, iyang i-decrease ang volume sa atong pag-ihi by increasing the reabsorption of water in the kidneys. Mo na gitawag og antidiuretic. Okay? So, nganong nganong importante man usahay ning vasopressin? Kay usahay class kabantay mo kung paspas kay atong pag-inom og tubig or frequent atong pag-inom og tubig, di ba frequent pod atong pag-ihi-ihi, okay, or pag-release og urine. When that happens class, ma-deplete ang water reserve sa atong system. So mao na nga si posterior pituitary gland mo release ni vasopressin para dili kaayo daghan ang atong ihi unya dili pud siya frequent. Kay unsa may mahitabo class kung magsigit tag pangihi, kuyaw kaayo og unsa man, kuyaw kaayo og ma-dehydrate ta. Kung magsigit tag pangihi, mahutdan tag water reserves. So mo na nay antidiuretic. So the posterior pituitary also releases oxytocin, which is very important during the labor of females kung padung na siya manganak and during lactation or the production of breast milk. Okay? So important siya. Next is the anterior pituitary. So the hypothalamo-pituitary portal system carries hormones from the hypothalamus to the anterior pituitary. So diri nila na-establish ang connection. But again, wala pa explanation as to how this connection occurred sa hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary. Okay, so mo ni siya ang graphic representation sa process class. Inyong tanawon. Okay. Okay, next. So, in the quant class, in around the early 1900s, researchers or scientists in the field of physiology discovered hypothalamic releasing hormones. Okay, naa sila na-discover nga hypothalamic releasing hormones. So, one of the first hypothalamic releasing hormones that they discovered is thyrotropin. Okay? Thyrotropin stimulates the release of the hormones from the thyroid gland. Thyrotropin originated from the hypothalamus. So they realize nga it's not only the pituitary gland that releases hormones, si hypothalamus nag-release po day of hormones. And one of those is thyrotropin. Okay? So how is or how does unsay tawag ani? How does how are hormone levels regulated in our system? Okay? First is the neural regulation. Sa neural regulation, all endocrine glands except the anterior pituitary receive neural signals. So what do the neural signals contain? The neural signals will tell the endocrine glands to produce a hormone or not produce a hormone. Duha ra na gyud na ang sugo niya. Mag-produce ba og hormone or dili lang usa mag-produce og hormone. So mao na ma-regulate na siya sa mga neural signals coming from the brain. Pwede pod hormonal. Unsa may pasabot aning hormonal regulation class? There are some hormones, for example, si thyrotropin, released by the hypothalamus, na ang iyang main function is also to tell an organ or a gland to release a hormone or not. Right? So mo na gitawag siya hormonal regulation kay ang nag-regulate mismo sa pag-release og hormone sa isa ka gland is another hormone. Okay? And of course, there are also non-hormonal chemicals that regulate this process. Na ay glucose, calcium, and sodium. Okay? So, mo na siya class. Ang tulo ka mga ways in which hormonal production can be regulated. All right? So let's proceed. Okay, kanila nga picture. So this is a summary model of the regulation of hormones. So as you can see, the brain releases the neural signals. Okay? So when the neural signals are released, adto dayon sa hypothalamus. The hypothalamus releases gonadotropin releasing hormone. Si gonadotropin releasing hormone class mo na siya mo ingon ni anterior pituitary nga dapat na siya mag-release sa gonadotropin. Okay? So when the anterior pituitary releases the gonadotropin, maagto dayon ang gonadotropin sa gonads or sa mga glands. And the gonads or the glands will then release estrogens, androgens, and progestins or other hormones. And then to the body tissues, i-distribute dayon ang hormones sa atong body tissues. Okay? So inana na siya ang process. Alright. Hormones and the sexual development of the body. Humans are generally dimorphic. So in the usual setting, human beings class are dimorphic, which means that we exist in two forms, male or female. Genetic information on the sex chromosomes will normally determine male or female development. So again, mao na akong giingon ninyo ganiha, ma-determine na dayon sa doctor, right? Sa imong OB/GYN, no? Obstetrician gynecologist, in the first pila ka months, I think 4 months or 5 months of katong development sa womb sa mother, kung unsa ang gender, okay, sa infant. All right. So fetal hormones and the development of reproductive organs or the gonads. So at first, there is a primordial gonad. Okay, primordial gonad. It's like a single gonad. So the primordial gonad, the cortex of the primordial gonad has a potential to become an ovary, while the medulla of the primordial gonad has the potential to be a testis. So mangutana mo, sir, what if sir lalaki jud unsa may mahitabo sa cortex nga dili man siya mahimong ovary? So ang mahitabo class, it will just disintegrate. Same goes with the medulla. Kung babae, of course, kay dili naman mo develop dapat ang medulla, kay testis man siya, okay, so may disintegrate lagi siya. Okay? All right. The initial reproductive ducts of the reproductive organs. Both sexes, male and female, begin with two sets of reproductive ducts. For the males, gitawag siya Wolffian system class. The Wolffian system is composed of the seminal vesicles and the vas deferens. And for females, gitawag siya Mullerian system. Uterus, your vagina, and the fallopian tubes. Okay? In the third prenatal month of development, magsugod na ang differentiation of the ducts. Okay? So mura magbuwag na siya sugod class. No? So for the testis which produces testosterone and Mullerian inhibiting substance. So kung lalaki class, ang testis sa katong lalaki reproduce og testosterone and Mullerian inhibiting substance para dili tumutubo ang Mullerian system. So tungod kay naa may Mullerian inhibiting substance, okay, mo develop dayon ang Wolffian system, the Mullerian system degenerates, and then the testis will descend. So mo na, lalaki dayon to ang na-develop. For females, on the other hand, there are no testes and no testicular hormones produced. Therefore, the Mullerian system will develop and the Wolffian system will also degenerate. Okay, mo na siyang picture. Okay. How about the external reproductive organs or the genitalia of the females and males? Okay, so the genitalia of both males and females develop from one bipotential precursor. The differentiation of these genitalia occurs in the second month. So kung naay testosterone class ang katong infant sa sulod, mo produce siya male structures. Pero if wala siya testosterone, female structures develop. Okay? Now we go to puberty. Okay, so how is puberty mediated by hormones and the development of secondary sex characteristics? Okay, so during puberty class, this is the time when fertility for males and especially for females is already achieved. So meaning diri na magsugod og ka-fertile ang babae. Meaning if the girl or if the woman, okay, would engage in a sexual intercourse, pwede na siya mamabdos kung fertile na. Okay? So, it is during puberty class wherein the secondary sex characteristics also develop. The secondary sex characteristics are features unrelated to reproduction, but these features distinguish a sexually mature man and sexually mature women. Diha na mo makita ang difference between men and women. So during puberty, there is an increase of release of anterior pituitary hormones. Therefore, ang i-release dayon ang growth hormones, gonadotropic hormones, and the adrenocorticotropic hormones. Okay. Relative levels of androgen and estrogen will determine class whether male or female features develop. So depende unsang i-produce. Kung mag-produce og daghan ng androgen, then male characteristics, male features will develop. Kung mag-produce class og daghan na estrogen, therefore female characteristics will develop. Another hormone is androstenedione, no? The androstenedione is a hormone mediated by androgen release that is necessary for the growth of axillary or underarm hair in females. Okay, underarm hair in females, armpit. Okay, so in 1936, a researcher named Joan Pfeiffer discovered that there were sex differences in the mammalian brain function. So naay differences sa mammalian brain function according to sex. Okay, so in 1936, Pfeiffer gonadectomized and implanted gonads in neonatal rats. So iyan yung first, ang iyang experiment, giunan niya sa mga ilaga or sa rats. So it was found that in rats, the gonadectomy or pagbutang o gonads causes cyclic gonadotropin release patterns. The transplant of testes to males or females also causes steady gonadotropin release patterns. Okay? Mao na siya. So kaning aromatization hypothesis, dili lang nato apilon no kay dili makay ni siya important. So please also try to kanang determine no the slides that I am skipping. So 29, 30, 31 akong i-skip. Okay? Now we go to the modern perspectives on the sexual differentiation of the mammalian brains. So for the mammalian brains class, there is no single mechanism that can account for the development of sexual dimorphisms of mammalian brains. Okay? So for males, aromatase is only required for testosterone effects on masculinization in some areas of the brain. For female brains, development may not automatically occur in the absence of estrogen. So bisan og kanang walay estrogen, it doesn't mean that the growth will continue. Okay, so there might be a disruption of the development of the female brain without estrogen production. Okay, various dimorphisms have also been found to emerge at different stages under different influences. Okay, sex chromosomes influence brain development independent of their effect on hormones. And lastly, studies with gene knockout on mice indicate that estradiol plays an active role in the female program of brain development. Okay? So how about perinatal hormones and behavioral development? So if the perinatal hormone will masculinize, it will promote male behavior. If the perinatal hormone's function is to defeminize, it will prevent female behavior. Okay? So perinatal testosterone masculinizes and defeminizes. So you have to remember, class, that perinatal hormones can only be found in males. Okay? So kaning three cases of human sexual development, dili lang gihapon kita to apilon. No, kay mataas na pag-ayo siya. So skip slides 34. 34. Alright, 34 to 39 ang skip. So back to 40. So, okay, male reproduction related behavior and testosterone. So in 1959, okay, Bremer, I think ang iyang name is Philip Bremer, conducted an orchidectomy. Okay, so in the orchidectomy, ang iyang effect was that it reduced sexual interest and behavior among males. It also nagyapon ang adrenal testosterone pero nakuhaan na ang levels. Okay? So the level of male sexuality is not highly correlated with testosterone levels in healthy men. Okay? increasing male testosterone levels is also not correlated with increasing sex drive. Okay. So kabantay mo na class, di ba na yung mga advertisements no sa TV or even in the internet nga kuan kuno kanang unsay tawag ana naay mga ipang-inom nga oral medication nga makapa-increase sa sex drive by increasing your testosterone levels of males. But actually, class, based on research, increased male testosterone levels is not necessarily correlated with any increase in sex drive. Okay? So, how about the female reproduction related behavior? So, for females, sexual motivation and behavior is not tied to the menstrual cycle. Okay? The sex drive of females may be under androgenic control. Okay? So again, based on the researches that have been researches that have been conducted, okay? The sexual motivation for females and their behavior is not tied to their menstrual cycles. Okay? Human female sexuality and androgens. So for for males, testosterone increases the proceptivity of ovarictomized and adrenalectomized female rhesus monkeys. Sir, unsay may pasabot anang ovarictomized and adrenalectomized? Both pasabot ana sa class, gitangtang ang ovary o gitangtang ang adrenal gland sa female rhesus monkeys. So kung injectan sila testosterone, mo increase ilang proceptivity. Okay, bisan og wala sila ovary, nya wala na sila adrenal gland. So hence, there are correlations that can be seen between sexual motivation and testosterone. Testosterone has also been found to rekindle sexual motivation in overrectomized and adrenalectomized women as well. Okay? So it's a bit weird, no? Kay ang testosterone is highly recognized as a hormone that motivates, no, or that mediates the sexual functions of males. Pero based pag yun sa research, makapamotivate po di siya sa female sexual behavior, no? If it is injected to a female. So, however, no, due to the kaning significance of hormonal growth and its influence on how we develop as individuals, then there is a possibility of abuse. No, tungod kay nakita nato class nga grabe kaayo og positive impact ang hormone sa atoa or positive kayong effect sa hormone sa atong system. Then there's a possibility that for us to continue that growth, no, we try to abuse by using steroids, di ba? Steroids in the market are highly regulated, no? However, when there is an abuse, muna gitawag siya anabolic steroid abuse. So, gitawag siya anabolic because steroids are actually growth promoting hormones. So, anabolic means growth promoting. So, actually, kung mag-steroid abuse, there is no firm scientific evidence that muscularity and strength are increased. Kabantay mo anak class kanang mga mga individuals nga nakasuway og steroid abuse. Kasagaran nila class, di ba, managko man na inigtan-aw nato managko ang muscles, di ba? Murag kanang grabe kayo ka unsa na postura ang lawas. Pero actually class, based on research, dili katong mga nidagko nga muscles, dili dito sila necessary the muscles, no? Some of them were just fat deposits caused about by the side effects of the steroid abuse. No? So, tungod man good class kay kung mag-abuse sa steroid, nakita nilang effects bang nagko ilang muscles, they have that mirror or illusion, nga mas ni muscular sila. But in reality, dili di ay. Okay? Anabolic steroid abuse has sex-related side effects. So, naay side effects related to sexual performance. Okay? High circulating hormones also cause a reduction of the natural release of these hormones. Therefore, kung there is steroid abuse, what are the consequences or side effects? For males, testicular atrophy. Pasabot in short, ang testicular atrophy, mugamay ang size sa imong testis. Naapoy sterility. Okay? Ang imong sperm, dili na siya kwan. Magkaubos ang chances ng imong sperm kay fertile or maka-produce og offspring. Naapoy gynecomastia, breast enlargement. Bantay mo sa mga male nga mga wrestlers class nga ang uban nila magamit og steroid, ang ilang breast mas dako pa sa babae. No, because some of them really take in steroids. For women, there is amenorrhea, meaning muhunong ang menstruation. Again, sterility and hirsutism. 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 Excessive growth of body hair. Okay? So, mauna siya. Okay? So, on the other hand, what are some of the neuroprotective effects of estradiol? Okay? Estradiol, di ba, kay namdum mo ang estrogen releases the estradiol, which is another form of hormone for females. So what does estradiol do? First, estradiol reduces brain damage if given just before or after inducing cerebral hypoxia. Class, unsa may pasabot anang hypoxia, class? I think you're familiar with the term. Unsa may pasabot, tan-aw ninyo pasabot sa hypoxia or cerebral hypoxia? Okay, I think no, dili mo familiar. Again, cerebral hypoxia. Okay, ang cerebral hypoxia kay kuan na siya class kana ganing murag kuwang ang hangin sa imong brain, 'di ba? Usahay kung if a person experiences stroke, okay, makuwang na ang oxygen supply sa brain, mao na magka-hypoxia. So, for females, mo release sila estradiol para ma-reduce ang brain damage. Estradiol also reduces the inflammation. It also reduces inflammation, encourages axonal regeneration, and promotes synaptogenesis. Okay? It also increases adult neurogenesis and may account for sex difference in longevity and some diseases. So, usa sa mga nakit-an or na-discover sa research class is that kanang ang kaning estradiol is one of the reasons why females are expected to live longer class compared to males. Mo na siya ang usa sa mga na find out sa research na literature. Okay, naapoy possible salutatory cognitive effects ang estradiol. Okay. Wait sa. All right. So, diha lang ta. We stop at slide number 44, no, on the study of or on the topic of hormones. Again, of course, the focus of this discussion on hormones is on sex hormones, no, which tried to elaborate class the differences between hormonal growth among males and hormonal growth among females. Okay? So, mao na siya ang discussion for today. Are there questions? Class, are there questions?